World War II shattered literally millions of lives, shattered the hopes, careers, and opportunities of people of all ages. And it was especially tragic for young people, whose lives were just beginning. No field of activity, be it science or art, or a person's status, be it a famous scientist or a famous athlete, could save them from hardship and suffering, or even a painful death in a concentration camp. The story of Salomon Aroch, a Greek boxer who spent most of his fights in Auschwitz, where every time the bet was life, is a telling example of such a distorted fate. Today, on X War History, we are gonna tell you about the so-called Auschwitz gladiator. A career as a boxer. He was born in 1923 on the shores of Greece, in Thessaloniki. In addition to him, there were 3 sisters and a brother. From an early age, helping his father and then working as a port cargo handler, Aroch developed an excellent physique, and it is not surprising that in his youth, he took up boxing quite seriously. The more so, because his father wanted very much for his son a sporting future and was his first trainer, and his brother was his sparring partner. At 14, Salomon had his first official fight in amateur boxing. At the age of 16, he represented the sport club Eris, won 24 fights by knockout, and became the champion of Greece. And then, in 1939, he competed in the Balkan Championships, where he also became the middleweight champion. On his record, he had already 27 wins, all of them by knockouts, which was the record of the time. He moved around easily in the boxing ring and was even nicknamed the dancer for this unusual way of footwork. With such a track record, Salomon Aroch at that time was recognized by all the experts as a rising star of boxing, and in Greece itself he was already a superstar, and everyone was looking forward to his performance at the upcoming Olympics in Helsinki. War and concentration camp. But in the year 1939, Germany attacked Poland and World War II began. All Olympic plans and dreams of a glittering career were shattered in a moment. In April of 1941, Greece was invaded by the Blitzkrieg and the whole family found itself in the ghetto. Salomon and his family worked for the Nazis for the following 2 years, and in March of 1943, a terrible chapter of their lives began. They were sent to a Nazi concentration camp along with other Jews. The Aroch family was not so lucky, if we can say so, as they were sent to the most dreadful campsite, Auschwitz, in what was formerly Poland. From Salomon Aroch's recollections, "They took us literally like cattle, in boxcars where it was impossible to sit down, let alone sleep, because there were so many of us in one carriage. It took us about 6 days to get from Greece to Poland. Many of us didn't make it. We were dying of hunger and exhaustion. We were taken to Poland closer to nightfall. My parents, my 3 sisters and brother, and others were stripped naked. Then our heads were shaved, and we were thrown with freezing water. We stood in the cold until noon of the next day without being allowed to sit down." Then the whole family was separated and Salomon never saw his family again. Only after the war did he learn the terrible truth. His mother and sisters were immediately sent to the gas chambers and burned in the furnaces. His father later died of starvation and exhaustion, and his brother was shot for refusing to serve as a funeral director and tear gold crowns from the mouths of doomed victims. Most likely Salomon would have faced a similar end had he not been an outstanding boxer. Mortal fights. The Nazis entertained themselves in the concentration camps with so many people condemned to death in their power in the number of ways, including real gladiatorial fights between prisoners with fighting skills. The famous boxer Salomon, of course, was immediately on the list of fighters for such duels. There were no rules pretty much. Fights were held 2 or 3 times a week, most often on Wednesdays and also Sundays. There was no timing of rounds, no refereeing, and the fight could last as long as one of the contestants fell completely exhausted or knocked out, or when the Nazis were bored with the show. The winner received food. The defeated man was executed, sometimes right there in front of the winner. These were truly bloody gladiatorial fights. Each fighter perfectly knew that the day of the fight could be the last day of his life. Salomon would later confess that every time before a fight, he would shake at the thought that today might be the last day of his life. Furthermore, there was a gambling game, with Nazis betting on the outcome of the battles. And since Salomon consistently won, many Nazi officers wanted him to lose. But most likely, Salomon was profitable to the concentration camp commandant because he attracted constant interest in the fights and brought in a large betting revenue. which in the end probably also saved his life, apart from his pure boxing expertise. After all, he was kept alive even in 2 drawn bouts, although, as a rule, opponents were executed after bouts that ended in a draw. Either kill or be killed yourself. Once a great sports aspirant, Salamo Aroke, the famous dancer, was now just prisoner number 136954, a clerk in the camp office who twice a week went out to fight, in which he had to either kill a fellow prisoner or be killed himself. 2 of these fights are particularly well known. In one of them, he knocked out a Roma fighter twice his weight in 18 seconds, and in the other one he knocked out a German fighter Klaus Silber, who had also remained unbeaten before that fight, after being knocked down several times himself. In total, Salamo Aroke fought 210 battles in Auschwitz, of which he won 208. From Salamo Aroke's recollections, "It was unbelievable to endure all that hell, of course, and I thought about escaping. Familiar Poles from the resistance made a dig and offered to escape with them. Soon they were all hanged, so that everyone could see it. I never thought about escaping again. By boxing, I had at least some chance to survive." After the liberation. On January 27, 1945, Auschwitz was liberated. Salamo survived. For several months after the liberation, he searched for his family until he learned the truth about their deaths. Around this time, he met Martha Yehiel, a 17-year-old concentration camp survivor, also from Thessaloniki. They moved to Tel Aviv after the formation of Israel. They had 4 children together. Salamo himself changed his name to Shlomo, became an Israeli legend and still tried to return to the fighting. But after entering the professional ring and losing in the 4th round to Almedo Falcinelli, he finished the sport and devoted himself to the ship business. In 1966, as a member of the IDF, Aroke took part in the 6-Day War. In 1989, a film based on his story, The Triumph of the Spirit, was released, in the production of which Salamo participated as a consultant. And in the year 2009, Salamo Aroke passed away. In the conclusion, another quote from his memoirs. "If I had known then, or if someone had told me, that my whole family was no longer alive, I would not have fought. Yes, I would have been shot or sent to the gas chamber, but the belief that at least one of my relatives had survived gave me the strength of mind to keep fighting for my life, for their sake. I think if you were in my position, you would have done the same thing." Thank you for watching. Subscribe to X War History, watch our other videos, and also leave a like.